I'm not going into the heart of the Amazon and telling people to go vegan, because in a lot of those situations, they may be doing it out of survival. Good, how are you guys? Good. Yeah, good.
So I wanted to hear your side of the arguments and stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think everyone should go vegan because there's no reason not to. I mean, veganism just means to reduce cruelty in your life as much as practically possible. So there's no reason not to, of course, reduce cruelty in your life as much as you possibly can. And the easiest way to do that is with your diet and with the products that you are directly funding. So if you're paying for something that causes immense cruelty immediately, directly with that funding, then why not just move over to a different cruelty-free product? And so that has to do with like clothing. If you're wearing the skin of the flesh of dead animals, that's kind of, you know, that's kind of paying directly for cruelty. If you're buying products that are having, you know, eggs, dairy, meat in them, then you're paying for cruelty immediately.
So what are some other like larger like social benefits for vegans?
Well, yeah, great question. So animal agriculture is the leading cause of world starvation. It's the leading cause of climate change, so species extinction, ocean dead zones, deforestation. It's also the leading cause of all major human health problems. 14 out of the top 15 killers of humans come from the consumption of animal agriculture products. So yeah, there's just a plethora of reasons to stop funding this industry. So destructive, yeah.
I was vegan for a year for a little bit.
Oh, right on.
I think when some things that come to my mind for sure is I just agree, like, you know, I think, you know, in a sense, we should also all be a little bit conscious of, like, of not like not recklessly consuming, you know, what we buy and stuff like that. I think at the same time, a couple things that come to my mind is accessibility. So I know like some people like live in food deserts, or like depending on where you live, like the vegan option or the vegetable option might be more expensive than like the $1 hamburger and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
So I think, I mean, I would feel like that's one thought and stuff like that. Like maybe like everyone doesn't necessarily have like can't afford to be vegan or stuff, or maybe like I know a lot of times like when I was vegan and stuff, it would be for the prepackaged stuff is expensive, so
sure. Processed food in general is going to be totally expensive. Yeah.
So like for me, like the vegan sheet for me was like cooking and stuff like that, like making everything like from scratch and stuff. But that's very labor intensive. Sure. And I think part of the reason I kind of stopped for a little bit was because like my back was hurting a lot and stuff like that. I have some back issues, and I couldn't so like standing up for a long time at the kitchen was like, okay, like I need to like so and then I would end up driving to like In-N-Out and like getting a hamburger. Right. So oh my gosh, shoot. I think the other thing too is that I definitely agree. Like I think we should definitely not recklessly consume. Everyone should be conscious of the choices and stuff. But at the same time, I think while it's important to like we care about our animals and stuff like that, it'd be important to look out for that. I think another thing too that sometimes gets overlooked is like exploited human labor for like food and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So I mean. So and this is not what you're saying, but I've heard other people say like they're all like plant-based and stuff like that. It's like, oh, like I'm cruelty-free. I'm like, well, there's exploited migrant labor for that food that you're eating. It's like those vegetables and those bananas you're eating and stuff.
Okay, sure. Somewhere down the line, down the food supply chain, you could probably find. I mean, even though these aren't directly causing the victimization of an innocent individual, they're probably indirectly somewhere down the line. Almost everything's made in China and sweatshops and stuff like that. But what we know is with veganism, you can reduce your cruelty as much as practically possible. So when I drive my car, I'm killing insects. I'm driving on non-vegan roads and stuff like that. But that's not really practical for me to stop driving my car because of the society we live in. What is practical is just not intentionally buying products that cause direct suffering. And we actually find most human rights violations are in the animal agriculture industry. We're taking the land of second and third world countries and just deforesting it, taking their soil and degrading it so we can raise livestock to then ship over to first world countries so we can keep eating meat 3 times a day. And then going back to the food deserts, I definitely didn't set this table up like deep in the heart of a food desert, because I'm not going to go out and directly try to tell people to do something that's going to be almost impossible for them. But it turns out, I mean, in a modern civilized society, even if you are living in a food desert, studies show that you do have affordable access to healthy plant-based options. There's organizations like Thrive where you can order your food and have it shipped to you for really, really cheap at a Whole a wholesale price. And there's also, I mean, you go into any local market, you know, there's going to be a market somewhere, even if it's not a big grocery store, you know, a chain store. You're going to find a little corner market in even these food deserts. So you can find vegan options there nowadays just because they're so readily available. And it turns out, you know, a can of beans is significantly cheaper than buying a bunch of ground beef or, you know, meat products and dairy products and egg products. Those are all so much more expensive on average in any store than just a plant-based option. Yeah.
I know for me, one concern I have is that I know like a lot of indigenous folks already use meat and like in their food and their culture.
Sure.
So what would you say to those folks? I'm not like, I'm just really curious.
That's a really good question. That's a really good question.
Because I understand we do have a problem with consumerism, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
Human rights violation, like a lot of agriculture stuff for sure. But I'm really curious about like this topic and like indigenous folks.
Sure, yeah.
Talk to some indigenous folks who've like spoken about this.
I was actually just talking with someone who said that they were a descendant of a Native American tribe yesterday, and he brought up the same issue. And yeah, again, I'm not going into the heart of the Amazon and telling people to go vegan, because in a lot of those situations, they may be doing it out of survival. They may be doing it because the plant life has been so destroyed, the vegetation is so destroyed due to industrial first world practices that they then have no choice but to then kill the first animal they see. But actually, when you look at these native traditions and cultures, they are way more observant and conscientious of their environment. So when they notice that the wildlife is being depleted, as it is now, we have 50% of the world's wildlife being depleted because of overhunting. And so these natives look at it and say, you know what, we're not seeing as many elk and deer and wildlife that we used to see. Maybe we should taper back on the cultural tradition of murdering needlessly, because they really don't think that they need it for their health. They're pretty much aware that healthy food is the plant-based food. They do most of it for their cultural tradition because it's a communal experience, it's a social experience. They go out and they you know, emphasize the aspect of teamwork, and you know, it's like a guy's night out type of thing. So it's definitely a social evolutionary quality in our ancestors and human evolution and indigenous and native peoples and stuff like that, but it's not a biologic dependency on the consumption of animals. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily tell them, because a lot of them are already, like the Standing Rock tribe had recently said that they were cutting back on their, you know, hunting because they realized that it wasn't helping the environment, and they respect the environment so much more than we do, and they're more educated in that they're living within that environment, trying to function in a coexistent way.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Hey, I appreciate it. You guys want a resource? Again, I'd love to encourage you to take a 22-day vegan challenge. It's totally free, and they'll give you a mentor, and you can ask them any questions day or night, and they'll let you know how to not just maximize your health, but have the convenience and efficiency of a plant-based diet. Right on. Thanks for chatting, guys. See you later. Well, hello.